COVID-19 pandemic as a socio-historical issue of the Filipinos. Knowing Philippines as one of the developing country, its people are known for their hospitality and resiliency, which is somehow being romanticized by others and being taken as a positivity while dealing with the crisis. It is easy to point out the vulnerability of the country to pandemic issue, the COVID-19. With the crowded urban cities and the lesser capabilities to accommodate the infected due to no testing capacity, not fully equipped hospitals, and lack of personal protective gears, Filipinos were afraid and alarmed for each of the responses of the government. Dealing with the coronavirus reminds all of the Filipino about the historical issue, the martial law. The chance of repeating the history is likely to happen because of the way the government react towards the problem shows incompetence, inequality, and lack of sympathy, especially for the marginalized sector. We cannot deny the fear and doubt of the Filipinos because of the regulations that has been imposed. All the Filipino wants to hear a concrete plan from their entrusted leader, but the responses were gradually likewise, declaring a martial law. When the president announced his solution to keep his people safe, was effectively implemented right after he gave his word. The solution to control the people is through community quarantine. This is highly acceptable, which benefit both parties, the government and the public. To ease the alarming number of positive cases, but what enraged most of the Filipino is putting the military in charge instead of medical staffs to do the thermal checking in public within the designated area for checkpoints. It sometimes gets out of control and abuses the mass. There is a mistreatment happening in between, most likely to the poor. People notices every move of the government and compare it to the martial law. No one wants it to happen, but the way the government take its move is one step closer for making possible. Another thing for feeling unsecured is the awaited statement from the government. It threatens the people, causing them to the panic. Waiting for updates regarding to the problem and the transparency of the government is what the people wants to see, but nonetheless it leaves the people clueless but not blind from what is really happening in our country and especially in government. So this virus revealed the inequalities and favorable act to those who are privileged. People will never forget how this government is slowly killing the mass. The issues build up and everything gets worse. We cannot blame the poor for being violent and not following the rules. So the reality of not having enough supplies to feed them results to protests and outcries. No work means no having money. To survive in our daily life, we need money and especially for food. It's been a couple of months since the lockdown and we cannot see any chances of flattening the curves. Think of the people who earns money just to survive for a day. As a community quarantine extends, our life is getting harder and harder because, unlike the privilege, it's not all about having the internet connection and watching television all day. No country is ready for this pandemic crisis, but rather it tests the leadership and the governance. In our case, we cannot fully rely on the government. No concrete plans, no sympathy for the mass, and the law does not apply to those who governs. The virus will not kill the people, but the government will, and that will be all written in our history as another socio-historical issue of the Filipinos. Paano nga ba natin malalagpasan ang pandemyang ito?